Hi, I'm Pam with Crafttown Fabrics, and today we're going to make a baby blanket with hourglass blocks in it. We have one finished here on the back. As you can see, we've got the hourglass in the middle, and we've kind of off-centered the ones in the border here. So let's go over a list of the supplies of what we'll be using today. We're going to be using a white charm pack and a print charm pack. And you're also going to need some other supplies. You're going to need a ½ yard of pink for the border on this quilt. We use other colors for the other one that we do have finished, but we changed the colors up a little bit so you could see kind of how we progress. So we're going to need a ½ yard of the pink border, and we'll be cutting 5 4-inch strips of that. And on the green, for the sashing and the binding, we're going to cut 4 1.5-inch sashing strips for it. And then the rest you'll use for your binding. We cut ours 2 1/4. You can cut it 2 1/2 if you'd like. Now for the backing, we're going to need about 1.5 yards of that also for the backing. Now to get started, you will take one white charm and one print charm. And we're going to start making the hourglass units. We're going to have to mark our squares. There's different tools you can use for your marking. We have a quilter's rule. It has openings in the middle for your middle line. You can line it up here. It's got the corner there that you put it on, and mark on each side of that. Or you can use this one. This is an Omni Grid. It's a clear. It's got a line down the middle, and you can line that up and mark your lines also. I'll just use this one. So this is going to make a 1/4-inch mark on each side of your diagonal that you will sew on. You can pin your pieces together if you would like. I'm just going to show you how to do that right quick. And to do this, you would probably want to go ahead and get all your squares marked at once and chain piece them. Okay. Now what you're going to do after you get this done, we're going to cut it right down the middle. You're going to line your 1/4-inch line on your ruler up with that and cut right down the center. Now whenever you do that, you're going to end up with 2 half square triangles, and they're going to look like this. We're going to take them to the ironing board and press them. You want to set your seam first and then open it up and press it. And we're pressing, not ironing. Sometimes I think we get carried away with our pressing and we stretch out our blocks, or I do anyway. You can also use a little starch if you would like. Now we've got these 2 units, so to make our hourglass, we're going to flip them over, right sides together, and kind of nest those seams up together. And we're going to have to mark this again with another center line. Use the center line on your ruler, line it up corner to corner, and we're going to mark again. Okay, and we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew this. And then we're going to have our hourglass units. Now we've got that made. You can see how it's going to look. We're going to cut those apart. Line your 1/4-inch up on your seam line. Cut apart. And you can kind of see what we're going to set our seam and then press it open. Now we're going to have to square these units up to 4 inches. I'm gonna use this ruler. I like it. It's a Quilt in the Day, the 6-inch square up rule. It's got your 45-degree line on it, and it just helps keep everything real square. So you're gonna line up your marks on each corner of your 4-inch and have your 2-inch down the center. And just trim that up. Now we've got one. I'll go ahead and square this one up too. Okay, now you've got your 2 hourglass units. What you want to do whenever you get ready to sew them together, after you sew all of your squares together, so you'll have a wider variety to mix up in your quilt center, you're going to take 2 of these and you're going to flip them over. Now you want to make sure a dark and a light is matched up here. It doesn't matter which one you have together, but as long as it's a dark and a light. We'll sew that and show you this unit. Now in the center of the quilt we have done a 7x9 setting. That shows how you're going to start out with your units. And you will take it over, do a lot of pressing, squaring. That's our unit there. Okay, so on the quilt that we have done, it's a 7x9, and you're going to sew your rows, and then you're going to flip them over and sew your rows together. Okay, so let's get this out of the way. After you get that done, let me get this. I'm going to take this one down. This is the one that I've been working on. Whenever you get your center section together, you're going to want to get a measurement, because that's going to help you determine your top border, what size you need to be. So I already have a couple of borders on here just for showing purposes. Mine's measuring about 25.5 is about what, and that's including the seam allowances, because after you sew on your sashing strips, that's going to take up a 1/4 inch on each side. So you just want to kind of keep that measurement in your head so that whenever you get to the top border you'll know that. But first of all, we're going to sew our sashing strips on each side, and just the sides. That's your 1.5 inch strips. You're going to sew one to each side of that, and then you're going to take your square up ruler, because you're going to have a little left over, square that up. Now to do your side, I have one on here already, and we offset our hourglass units. We sewed 2 together and we put 2 around each one of our borders. To do that, we took a measurement, and our measurement, we used an 18 and an 11 inch and kind of lined it up where we wanted it to be. Now you can also, I have one on here, if you don't want that, if you want it a little more even or in the center, however, I split one of my border strips and I just sewed one to each end of that, and you can shift it back and forth until you find a pleasing arrangement that you would rather do. But like I said, on ours we went on the 3rd one. Now after you get both sides on, to do your top, you're going to add your sashing strip to the top. If I can get it apart here. You can trim now or later, whichever. Usually whenever I'm adding a sashing, I'm going to flip it over where the sashing is on the bottom, because you've got a lot of points in these hourglass units and you don't want to cut off your points. And usually if you'll sew about a thread above where your points meet, they usually come out real nice, usually. Alright, we'll sew this on right quick, and then I'm going to show you how to put the last border on. Press this down. Okay, now we're going to trim this the same way that we did with whenever we added our pink border. Okay. Now I have the top border made right here, and we put a 6 and a 14-inch piece onto this. As you can see, it's a little long, and I'm going to center my hourglass unit up with this one here. Now I do already have my corner blocks made. I've added the 1.5 by 4-inch strip onto that. Oops, let me get turned around here. And what I did, you can go by your measurement, or you can do, line it up where you want. Now you can use where you have attached your sashing on there as a kind of a guideline to make your marks. You can line up a 1/4-inch mark right on there like that and mark your line on both sides. That's going to be where you can cut it off, and then you can attach your blocks to it, and then you just sew your top border on and you're done. Let's just trim this up. I'll show you what I mean. Okay, now we're going to take this over to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew each one of these onto our strip here. Okay, press it real quick. Now let's hope it lines up right. All right. If you lay that against there, and you can see it's going to line up. I'm not going to take the time to sew it on there, but even if you lay it over against that, see how your sashing is going to line up, and it's going to come out and it's going to look square. So after you do that to the top and bottom, you're going to be done with your quilt. You can quilt it as you wish, bind it, you can keep it, give it to a friend, family member. It's a nice, easy project to do, and I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. Thank you.